It has been 27 years since the Losers Club took down Pennywise, the demonic entity that had been terrorizing the children of the town of Derry, Maine. And now it appears that it has returned. So Mike has summoned Bill, Bev, Ben, Eddie, Richie, and Stan back to Derry to try to perform a ritual that will reveal the true form of Pennywise and end its reign of terror that has tainted the town of Derry once and for all. This is It Chapter 2. So, yeah, my little intro piece isn't very long outside of the coughing fits, unfortunately. But overall, I would say it's pretty darn good. Much like the novel, the parts of the adults are not quite as good as the parts of the kid. I mean, the first part with the kid, where it was told from the kid's perspective. In this case, they have tweaked a few things. They early on, like Pennywise is not just going after children anymore. Like early on, he actually goes after like a gay couple that's probably in their late teens or so. He like the new local gang basically beats them up and throws one of them in the river, and Pennywise swallows him. And that's what catches Mike's attention to summon everyone back. And yeah, like I said, and the other part of it is Mike's arc in this, because they basically took a lot of the Mike character in the first one and transferred it over to Ben. The researching the town history and stuff, that was all Ben, and in the novel, in the original miniseries, it's Mike. And so in this case, they gave him this arc where, in order to try to find out everything, he found a Native American tribe that was just outside of Derry that it turned out had encountered Pennywise and performed a ritual to try to stop the creature. And he basically wants to recreate that ritual and defeat it. And obviously the only one who doesn't show up is Stan, and they actually do give a reason for that, and I'll get to that kind of in the bigger spoiler section. Other than that, like, it sort of follows the novel pretty much. There's a few other things, like it is heavily implied that Richie Tolson, that is Bill Hader as the adult and Finn Wolfhard as the child, is gay. That's kind of that's a bit of a new wrinkle. Because there's a point where each of the Losers Club has to go and find a special token of I can't remember his bravery. It's like something that was important to them that they're now remembering, because they have to piece together all their memories as they're coming back to Derry, because they get a little bit of they cut themselves when they made their oath, and their scars actually vanish, and then when Mike calls them, the scars reappear, and they have to get, and that kind of works as well. And they do, so yeah. So anyway, like Richie goes into the arcade and he finds this old Street Fighter machine, and he remembers playing with this one kid who it turns out was the cousin of Henry Bowers, and it seemed like they had maybe formed a kind of romantic, like he even says, like, oh, hey, you can stay longer if you want to, and maybe we could do something together. And it's like, and the guy, when Henry Bowers enters, he immediately goes, oh, what, you think I'm some sort of bleep, 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 bleep? I'm not going to use the terms he used. And so, yeah, it does seem to be implying that. Also, they changed a few things, like, in the book, and I believe it's in the books as well, but instead of being like the head of a chauffeur agency, Eddie is a insurance risk assessor, basically. Yeah, when someone's buying a property, he has to go in and say, like, oh, this all this structural damages. So yeah, it's actually a perfect job for that character if you think about it. So yeah, there's a little bit of that. Like I said, I don't want to get too far into just reciting the whole dang plot, because it does veer off into a few cul-de-sacs. Like early on, there's this kid who recognizes Richie from the stand-up act, and it's also a kid that Bill meets up with because he's living in Bill's old house. And basically, this kid takes the place of Bill's wife. If you remember, like again, I think it's in the novel too, where Bill's wife also comes to Derry and Pennywise kidnaps her, and Bill's also working to try to rescue her as well. In this case, it's this kid, and this kid also gets killed by Pennywise. And Bill's big revelation is because it reminds him a lot of Georgie, and he blames himself for Georgie's death because it turns out Bill was not actually sick. He was faking it because he didn't want to play on a rainy day with Georgie, and it was like it just happened to be the day Georgie got killed. And when there's kind of the climax bit, they're all in kind of their own minds at some point, and part of it is Bill sort of has to learn to forgive himself for that. Like, one, you're a teenager. It's okay to sometimes not want to hang out with your little brother, and that it happens too. Like, it's okay. It's like you couldn't have known that this was going to happen. You just wanted to avoid him for one day. And then I would say again, I think probably of the adult cast, the best performance is I'm winging this pronunciation. I believe his name is James Rasconi as Eddie. I thought he was really well done. Bill Hader was good too. James McAvoy and I can't think of what her name is. I keep calling her a different name. Jessica Chastain. That's it. Jessica Chastain. They were all right. They weren't spectacular, but the parts go pretty well. Unfortunately, sometimes this plot kind of grinds to a standstill a lot because we get big scenes of just like I said, where the kids are going through their going to find their tokens and everything. Like Bev, it's the creepy old woman in the that's living in her house. It's funny because she gets informed that her father died, but as I recall in the first movie, Bev killed her father. So she apparently forgot about that. And you get a little bit more, we get a bit more character development from Mike, and it's that when he was very young, he was playing with matches and inadvertently burned his parents' home. And that's what he's been blaming himself for, and there's another bit to this as well, which will, like I said, about to the Richie being gay thing as well. Richie gets sort of haunted by Pennywise at one point, and Pennywise goes, "I know your secret. I know your secret." And he never comes out and officially says it, but yeah, I think again it's pretty heavily implied that Richie is gay. There's actually the Stan bits to show up. With Stan, there's one point where again Richie's trying to leave and he finds the temple where the Jewish temple where Stan is. You remember Stan going through his bar mitzvah and talking about not wanting to forget the past and admitting that he's a loser and that's actually okay. And it's enough to kind of get him to spur Richie to get back into this. And Richie and Eddie, again, are very bondy in that, much like in the original novel at the end, because, just spoilers, Eddie is killed. Richie actually winds up taking a comedian who is very much like Eddie under his wing. So, yeah, you get kind of the same thing here. You don't quite get the full wraparound with it, but just a little bit of it. And just spoilers, they do wind up killing Pennywise. And like I said, there's one problem with this movie is that it's too long. I think you could have easily shaved about even 30 minutes off of this and it would have been a much better film. Like, they do a lot of flashback sequences, and I get it because the child cast was so good in the first one. You probably want to try to maximize as much as you can from that. But it doesn't. Except there's parts where again it's like they could be getting to the point where they fight Pennywise at this point. Like we don't need. There's a lot of repetition in that. They do play into the Bill, Bev, Ben love triangle a little bit as well. And again, it's like because Bev thinks that Bill wrote the poem that she got, the Burning Embers poem, but of course it's Ben, and that resolves pretty much the same way it does in the book. But then at the end, it's Bill's kind of story arc in this too is that he's the writer and he's a screenwriter / book writer, and everyone hates the endings of his books. He's at the beginning of the film. He's on a movie set with Peter Bogdanovich. So that was actually a pretty cool cameo in that. Bill also has a cameo. Bill also has a Meeting Stephen King cameo too. But the sort of joke with those books are they're really good, except the endings are all terrible because people want kind of nice wrap-up endings. They don't like constant ambiguity with their endings, and he seems at the end of the film he finally seems to have gotten over that. I guess that was part of his blaming himself for Georgie's death. Anyway, the one bit with Stan is at the end of it they all get a letter from Stan, and it's not a suicide note exactly, but it's basically him saying, when I got the call from Mike, I knew I wasn't ready. I was not going to be able to face it, and if I returned, I would wind up killing everyone else as well. So I willingly sacrificed myself so that the group could be solidified long enough to hopefully take Pennywise down. And that's basically what happened. And then as that's happening, again, Stan repeats his line from his speech from his bar mitzvah. So, sorry again, I'm starting to feel the tingles in the back of my throat, which means we could have another coughing fit. So, I'll try to wrap this up as much as I can. It Chapter 2 is going to get a B. It's pretty good, but again, the length just kind of kills it for me.
It's coming. More terror than you've ever felt before. Dare you let it in your library. Stephen King's newest tale of horror, Needful Things. Now this beautiful $24.95 hardcover is yours for just $7.95 when you join the chilling world of the Stephen King Library. Think of it. You save $17 off the publisher's price. Stephen King, the best-selling author whose works have spawned the Hollywood horror classics, Pet Sematary, Cujo, Christine, and the Academy Award-winning Misery. We will send you Stephen King's fantastic creations, including his newest books as soon as they're published, all in the original hardcover edition, all at just $14.95 each, all with a cancel anytime guarantee. Call now and Needful Things is yours, free for 10 days. If you're not terrified, return it and cancel. But if you dare the horror to continue, we'll send you a new volume every 7 weeks, each with a 10-day free trial. If your heart stops at the thought of commitment, don't worry, there's never an obligation to buy. Summon Needful Things now with no risk, and you will enter the unearthly library of Stephen King. It's a nightmare only Stephen King can deliver.
Call 1-800-228-1300 now to get Needful Things. Keep it and pay $7.95 plus shipping and handling. Future volumes will come, one every 7 weeks, each with a 10-day free trial. Keep only the ones you want, cancel anytime. Call now, 1-800-228-1300.
Okay, trailer time, and we actually got quite a few new trailers. I mean, we got some retreads as well, but we did get a big boost of new trailers into this. Starting things off is Knives Out. That's one we've had a couple times before. That's Rian Johnson's kind of whodunit murder mystery film. After that, we have Hustlers. That's the Jennifer Lopez movie. That's the next review, basically. After that, we have our first new film, which is Underwater. Basically, people working at an underwater sea base at the bottom of the ocean get trapped there because it turns out they awoke something. Kind of Alien meets the Abyss, if you will. After that, we had the remake of Black Christmas. Well, the remake of Black Christmas, I guess. And wow, that looked terrible. I mean, you really have to go above and beyond to make the 2006 version of Black Christmas actually look good by comparison. And well, they somehow managed to achieve it. After that, we have Terminator: Dark Fate again. Then we had The Good Liar, which is Ian McKellen and Helen Mirren, and they meet via this dating app for senior citizens, and it turns out that Ian McKellen's character is this kind of hustler con man who's trying to basically steal Helen Mirren's wealth, and there are people who seem to be getting in his way, and he's got to try to fight back from it. And appropriately enough, since this is a Stephen King adaptation, our next one is another Stephen King adaptation, Dr. Sleep. That's the sequel to The Shining. Looks pretty good. I just, unfortunately, I think something else comes out the week. I can't remember what it is, but it is something maybe I'll look forward to. And then rounding things off, we have Bad Boys for Life, the new Bad Boys movie. I know that trailer dropped earlier this week, so it was pretty good to see that again, I guess. Looked okay. I'm one of the few. I liked Bad Boys 1. I really did not like Bad Boys 2 that much. I know a lot of people do, but it just never really did anything for me. I just found it really annoying. I mean, the most entertaining bit of that was the song, because they reference things like Voltron and He-Man in it. Anyway, next video after this is going to be the random trade review on Kraven's Last Hunt, and the next movie review, like I said, is going to be Hustlers, and after that it's going to be the Clash of Champions review for wrestling, and then that Wednesday I'll probably review the USA premiere for NXT. See you all next time.
Hey guys, check out my Patreon and see how you can request a movie for me to review, even if it's some stinker like A Dog's Way Home or the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Also, if you like what you see, give the video a like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to ring that notification bell.